Thanks for being here today.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. The white hair disappears.
So white hair versus no hair, that's a choice. Yeah. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. Let me invite Pastor Dana Norton of the New Covenant United Methodist Church of Sunnyvale to lead the invocation. Please join me in standing.
Let us pray together. God, we come before you, a people as diverse as the names by which we call you. We pray that this night that our conversations will be respectful, that our conversations will include listening, most especially listening to the voices that are the least often heard. We pray that this body will be guided in decisions that care for those among us who have the most and those among us who have the least, those who are full and satisfied and those who are hungry and thirsty. For those who have their own homes and for those who might live in a car. Oh God, guide this body that they may make decisions that show their love for all of your people and all of our citizens. Bless us this night. It is in the name of the Creator, the Sustainer, and the Redeemer that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Please join me standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Good evening, council, staff, and members of the audience. Let me welcome you to the Town Council meeting for Monday, March 13th. Time is 7:04. For the record, we have Mr. Allen, Mr. Freeman, Mr. Eldridge, Mr. Egan, and George. With the 5 of the 7 council members present, we have quorum. Mr. Finch and Mr. Clark will be absent tonight. The first item on the agenda is announcements. Would anyone like to make any announcement tonight? I know the SISD Lady Raiders basketball have won the state semi finals. They go to finals, but they didn't quite make it, and I will have a recognition for them later, hopefully this month. I also know we have our school tennis team and maybe powerlifting team. I believe they both went to the state finals. I also heard over the weekend 3 of our youngsters winning the state competitions in the professional, what do you call that? Professional business professionals of America. And I believe they will be competing at the national level in Anaheim, California, here shortly. So, a lot of good accomplishments to be proud of. And I also got an email or letter from the Government Finance Officers Association notifying that our annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended September 2021 qualifies for the GFOA's Certificate of Achievement. September, I bet you that is September 2022. But I know Jeff will have a recognition for them, for the finance group, later this year. Anything else? Jeff, you have anything to announce, sir?
Yeah, Mayor, we do have a couple of upcoming public events, and I know Erica's busy juggling many tasks tonight, so certainly I could remind the council and those watching that we do have a Movies in the Moonlight. I believe that is on March the 31st here at Town Hall, and we also have a Trash Off upcoming in April. And folks can read about those in our weekly news flash email that goes out to the general public. And if I've missed anything, I'm sure Erica will correct me if I'm wrong. That's it. Okay. And Mayor, to your point earlier, I think we are in contact with the school district about having the girls basketball team here at the next council meeting to be recognized for their efforts. The other items we'll get those scheduled as well.
Thank you, Jeff. Anything else for the staff? Council, other additional announcements?
Mayor, we have one more, March 31st, Special Olympics. Can't hear that?
Yeah.
March 31st, Special Olympics at Sunnyvale High School, I believe. Is it the middle school or the high school? The high school?
High school, yeah.
There you go.
That'll be at 10 a.m. Thank you, Mr. Allen. Additional announcements? Okay. Moving on to the next item, public comments. If anyone from the members of the audience would like to come forward and speak to the council on any items other than personnel or legal matters or items on the agenda, you may come forward at this time. Good evening. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Isaiah John. I live on 297 Stoneman Drive. Okay, so I am a Boy Scout in Troop 746. I also attend Sunnyvale Middle School. I'm in 8th grade. There are two things I want to talk about today. First, I want to talk about the Sunnyvale tennis court, the public one. I've been playing tennis there for years, and I've seen the conditions of the courts. The nets are torn, the windscreens are torn, and one of the lights are broken. I was wondering if we could figure out a procedure, a way, so that we can get these courts fixed up. And secondly, as I said before, I'm a Boy Scout. I'm planning on starting my Eagle project soon, which is a project that helps out the community. I was wondering if the city council has any idea for a project that I can consider doing.
I say thank you for the, those two comments. I know staff will definitely take a look at the tennis board, tennis court conditions, and I'm sure they'll do what is necessary. As far as the project, let's think about it. Not a time for discussion, but If you have ideas or your dad has ideas, you may share with us, or one of the council members may get in touch with you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isaiah.
Thank you for coming.
Say something. Okay. Are there additional announcements or comments, public comments at this time? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm sorry, public comments. Moving on to the recognition portion of the agenda. Tonight, we will be recognizing Officer Beck from the state of Texas related to his continued efforts identifying the use of fraudulent temp tags and his impact in closing fraudulent businesses related to the same. Lieutenant Vegas, good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening. Mayor, Council, this was brought to our attention probably back in January, February, by his sergeant, Sergeant Short. So just kind of some background. I wanted to commend him on his enforcement of these fraudulent license plates, these temporary license plates. I'm sure you've seen them on TV. People are they're just the paper tags that you see on the cars. So it's a huge issue here in Texas. He has enrolled in training to better understand the law regarding the fraudulent tags. He began to enforce the traffic, everything from speed to defective equipment to temp tags. He quickly realized that we had several, if not hundreds, of fraudulent tags that were passing through the town of Sunnyvale. Beck also built a relationship with the Enforcement Division of DPS, the Department of Public Safety, who investigates the fraudulent issuance of these paper tags and the car lots that are issuing these. These are the small dealerships that are this kind of a pay here, buy here kind of thing, you know. So Beck has issued hundreds of citations, impounded several vehicles not intended to be on the road, and filed numerous complaints with DPS regarding auto dealers, in particular, that were high on the radar, on DPS's radar. So he files these complaints through the Enforcement Division of DPS. Those complaints filed, there were several of them, but 4 in particular that resulted in closing down these businesses, these car lots. So Officer Beck's hard work and exhaustive investigations with the help from his state partners into the fraudulent issuance of these temporary tags prompted numerous investigations by DPS. These investigations subsequently caused the closure of these businesses along with revoking their license to sell and purchase vehicles. Huge, huge hit. On a side note, you'll notice that the temp tags that you see on cars nowadays are different. They have a different look, they have a barcode, there's more accountability in that. Because of his work and because of the work of a lot of officers around the state that have been working on this, they were able to get the state to change this and require this and mandate this. So this is from the state of Texas that reached out to Sunnyvale, reached out to his sergeant, just to let us know that this guy is responsible for a lot of that, and we wanted to recognize him for that, and we appreciate him very much. What period of time?
I've been investigating them since I was in New York City. Didn't know what to do with them, but until I came down to Texas and took some training on it. So I'd say about a year now.
Wow. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well done. Well done.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again. Appreciate it. Absolutely. Thank you.
Good job, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks again. Well done. Well done.
That's outstanding. Outstanding work by Officer Beck. Thank you, sir.
Well done.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda items. Council, we have one item on the consent agenda. Would you like to remove that item from the consent agenda? Okay, if not, can I have a motion to approve consent agenda item 8?
Motion to approve consent agenda item 8.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Freeman, second by Eldridge to approve consent agenda item 8. All in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 5-0. Mr. Finch and Mr. Clark are absent. Moving on to the public hearing portion of the agenda, item number 9. Hold a public hearing, discuss, consider, and act upon the first reading of Ordinance 2023-04, granting a special use permit to allow for a school, private, converting roughly 4,911 square foot existing building and the addition of roughly 3,531 square feet located generally at 618 US Highway 80. That be Philip? Philip, I was looking for you over there, the other side.
He moved on you.
Sure.
Let's see. Now's it's working. All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The subject property is located at 618 US Highway 80, consists of roughly 2 acres, and is currently zoned highway commercial. The property includes one existing building that operated as a restaurant before closing. The owner is requesting a special use permit to allow the building and the expansion thereof to be converted to allow for a school, private, college or university use, and child care facility daycare. The property is surrounded by highway commercial zone properties and fronts US Highway 80. On the site, the facility will consist of 612 square feet of office space, and the remaining 7,831 square feet will be used for the operation of the daycare facility. 2 exterior play areas will be located near the building exits, and both will have a 6-foot high security fence at the perimeter. A parent drop-off lane has been added to the building on the north side. Parents will drive clockwise around the building to reach the drop-off lane, where 2 covered unloading spaces are as required by the UDO. The daycare use parking ratio is less intense than that of a restaurant that the building was originally built for, and the use requires 15 spaces, and there's an existing 39 spaces. Landscaping has been updated to meet current requirements, including the addition of screening and shrubs adjacent to the parking lot, and landscape buffer and shade trees to the frontage of the property. Staff distributed letters to property owners within 200 feet of the property and did not receive any responses. Staff recommends approval.
Philip, thank you very much, sir. Let me open up for public comments. If there is anyone from the members of the audience who would like to come forward and speak to the council on item number 9, you may do so at this time. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Would you go and state your name and address for the record, sir?
Okay, my name is Glenn Hooper. My address is 323 South Dallas Avenue in Lancaster, Texas. I'm an architect for this project, and I was just going to, if y'all had any questions, I can provide a response.
Yeah, yes, sir. Council, do you have any questions for the architect?
I actually do. I mean, I've gone through and tried to look at this. So I'm assuming there's play areas outside, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Are we putting any finally for screening purposes to basically, just to, for lack of a better term, to shield them from the traffic? I mean, that's my only issue. I know it's kind of a weird question, but people just kind of driving by and seeing that there's a daycare there. It's close to a highway.
The 2 play areas are, as you're looking at that plan right there, are on the left side and on the right side. There's not any on the front of the building that would be visible from Highway 80. There's a play area in the right rear corner, and then there's another play area on the left side.
Okay.
The one on the left side is for the infants and toddlers. That's where those two classrooms are. The one on the right is for the older children.
All right. Thank you.
And the hatched areas are what's being added.
This is just a very awkward location, right? I mean, that's where the restaurant closed down. Bullspen, yeah, there used to be. I don't know. It's almost very isolated, right? It's middle of nowhere, nothing. Yeah, there's a home church there. There's Sea Life on the other side. There is an antique store. It's not like on a weekdays. It's not a heavily trafficked area, right?
There's a church to the right.
Yeah.
And then there's a ranch area with cattle and stuff behind it.
Yeah. What are the safety concerns here? I mean, it's just the school is out there by itself. And eventually there'll be things around it, right?
I would imagine so that area would get developed as highway commercial, yes, sir.
Right. But do we need to do something different since this is sort of kind of the step one of future development, safety-wise? Do we have to do anything different? What are your concerns, sir? What are your thoughts, sir? Architects-wise, is that, I know this is eventually it'll be filled up. I got it. Right now, this is it. It just kind of stand by itself on a weekdays, right?
Yes, but it's on a major highway here.
Right.
And it does have an existing elevated sign that the restaurant had used, so we'll convert that to what this is a Montessori daycare facility.
Yeah.
We'll have about 7 classrooms and probably maybe 149 enrollment.
So what will be the grades for this one?
This is 6 or 7 years old and below.
Below, okay.
It's basically like maybe like through first.
From infants to about 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And this, and they've, this franchise is a Pinnacle. It's called a Pinnacle Montessori School. So they've got schools that are operating in Forney, also in Frisco, and also in San Antonio. And we've got several others that are in the process of design and also in the process of permit process. Different other areas close by.
When do you expect this construction to be? Which school year do you think will be opened?
I'm thinking probably the middle of next year. We will be submitting plans to the city for the review, probably 2 or 3 months. Okay. We've been working on it for a little while already.
So Philip, why is this a special use permit? This is a highway commercial. Schools are not allowed. Is that why?
So it is basically for daycare. It is required for an SUP in all zoning districts. Okay. I believe. I would have to go back and check, but I'm pretty sure that is the case.
So Jeff is stepped out. Okay. So the other question I have, it's not fair to them, but just a question, right? So we know eventually. If you look at our highway commercial, once Highway 80 expands and widens, right? Mm-hmm. The south side of 80 is where I would anticipate a lot of businesses will come, right? Commercial type of things. Is having a school going to preclude us from having retail, commercial type of businesses? Because school has its own limitations, right? Bring some. Brenda, if you have a comment, you can come.
Well, just from a land use perspective,
yeah,
it's usually a draw for retail because they want to capture those parents that are dropping kids off.
Okay.
So it's typically not a negative from an economic development standpoint.
It's not, okay.
Especially in an isolated location like it is.
I'm thinking about right now, there's very little traffic because there's all churches right there, right?
Yeah.
Sea Life's there, Hope Church is there, right?
Yeah,
Antique
stores.
malls, antique
Yeah,
stores,
yeah.
right? This would increase traffic to the area even before
On a
Highway 80.
weekdays, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
now
weekdays.
it's only weekends, yeah.
I mean, think about the same philosophy we had with Collins in 80, right? We got QT first because QT increased traffic, and that's what brought everything else.
Yeah. So I was thinking about, Brenda may be able to comment on it. I know around the school, we cannot have certain types of businesses, right? Or the alcohol sale, maybe a restaurant, right? So I'm thinking about.
That's true anyways because this area's got churches. I think it's 500 feet within churches. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a 250-foot requirement for churches and schools? Or is it 12?
Brenda would know better than I. I think it's 500 feet though.
It's 300 feet
Door to door. Okay.
For a school district, it's property line to property line, but for all other uses, it's door to door.
Okay. All directions, I guess. All directions.
No, front door to front door.
Okay.
Right. It's very hard to get within 300 feet.
Okay. Okay, got it. Yeah. Council, additional question for the architect. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Let me open up for public comments. If anyone from the members of the audience would like to come forward and speak to the council on item number 9, you may do so at this time. Nobody is coming forward, so we're going to close the public hearing. Council, this is the first reading. I would expect this to be back on the consent agenda next time unless council decide to pull it off the consent agenda. So with that, can I have a motion with respect to item number 9?
Motion to approve item 9.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Eldred, second by Mr. Allen to approve item number 9 as presented. Everyone heard the motion? Are there additional discussions? If none, all in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 5-0. Mr. Finch and Mr. Clark are absent. Thank you, sir, for being here tonight. Moving on to the presentations and updates. Item number 10, presentation update related to the East Strip Road Drainage Improvement Project. That be Mr. Jenkins?
Mayor, yes,
Yes,
this
sir.
is our town engineer, Lyle Jenkins, will be able to drill down on any specifics. But this project was on previous council meetings agenda. Council approved adding a water line replacement to this project. The question was, I believe, what was the impact to the completion of the sidewalk? We have visited with our engineering firm. We know it's going to be about an additional 6 months for the water line to be designed. Everything else is already designed, and there was about an 18-month construction time frame. So you're looking at potentially 24 months before the sidewalk. That would be the last thing that would go into the project. So about 24 months from now for the installation of that sidewalk to connect that portion of Tripp to the school
So
district
that
all
is
the way.
design plus construction, 24
Yeah,
months.
6 more months of design and 18 months of construction.
Right, that's conservative. That's conservative, okay. So we are
So
looking
it
at
could be
20
sooner than that, but worst case scenario, 2 years from this spring
Okay.
for that
So,
sidewalk.
2026 school year, kids will be able to walk from Stony Creek, Deer Creek area to the school, something like that. Give or take, right?
Yeah, hopefully in the spring of 2025. If not, maybe the winter.
Okay.
Best case scenario.
Council, any question for Mr. Jenkins? Brenda, I'll take public comments. Anyone from the members of the audience would like to come forward and ask questions about item number 10, you may do so. Now it is coming forward, so we're going to close item number 10. So this is more of an update. No action needs to be taken, correct? Moving on to the discussion and action item portion of the agenda, item number 11. Discuss, consider, and act upon the traffic calming policy related options. That be Mr.
Mayor,
Jones?
I just have some introductory comments. We do have a presentation by our police department, and then Mr. Jenkins, our town engineer, also has some additional information if council wants to explore the possibility of the addition of speed humps on any of what we call the high traffic roadways. So Lieutenant Vegas here will give us an update. As y'all know, at a previous council meeting, we did authorize purchasing some additional radar trailers. Those radar trailers came in sooner than we anticipated, which was a good thing, and so we've had those deployed at some of our high-trafficked roadways, Collins, Rebecca, Tripp, Jobson, and Mitchell. Did I miss anything, Lieutenant? I think those are the 5. And so we do have some updated traffic information to show you as part of the police presentation, and then if you have any questions about the amended traffic calming policy and any applications of potential speed bumps or speed humps on any of those roadways, I believe Mr. Jenkins has done a brief analysis, particularly as it relates to Rebecca.
Okay. By the way, this is a great looking picture right here. I love the
Took that
picture.
one.
It's a great job. Great
Thank
job.
you.
Except there's no way anyone's going 24 miles an hour.
No, no. Sometimes they ignore the police car, they'll do it anyway, so, you know, we've encountered
I
that.
tell you what, I see people slowing down Collins Road many times. I watch for it now.
Yeah, I think the mentality sometimes is that, well, they have one car stopped, I'm free to go.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so we created this just to, it's quick, it's only for the last month or two. It just to show that, you know, our officers are out there in full force. We're trying to impact some of these complaints that we're getting. And I personally think that the officers are doing a great job. So we are flooding these areas, is what we're calling high impact areas. So some of the things that we kind of outlined was on that back page was we are the pass-through. Everybody knows we're a pass-through between Garland and Forney. Speeding accidents, we have a huge amount of accidents that occur. That takes a lot of time from our officers. And
Highway 80 mostly,
a lot of them are on Highway 80, but we have a lot of them on surface streets. So, you know, Collins, you know, East Forks, stuff like that. So it's nothing that is really alarming, but we do work a lot of them.
Okay.
So, and then, you know, the high traffic flows in the mornings and in the afternoons.
What else?
Lieutenant, can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, sir.
Did we refer into a high volume of speeding or accidents on Collins and East Fork?
So I'll get to the speeding part. This is just kind of a
Okay, all right.
breakdown.
I'll
of-
wait.
So these are the impact roads, as the town manager was talking about: Collins, Tripp Road, Mitchell Road, Jobson, Rebecca. Some of the areas that we spend more time would be Collins and Rebecca, for obvious reasons. We didn't see a whole lot on Mitchell. Tripp is probably third on that list. People that are cutting through from Beltline and we're seeing a lot of high numbers in there. So, not necessarily just from speeding. So, just when you look at the speeding numbers, and some of them appear to be, you know, kind of low, it's because there's a presence out there. We have the trailers out there, so there is a presence. But there's also a high volume of cars that are traveling through there. So some of these, you know, you can see some of the high impact areas, you know, obviously throughout the week. These are traffic enforcement issues and stuff like that. Townwide is all green, and all the blue is obviously the high impact areas. So some of those streets that we were talking about. Traffic stops, we spend a lot of our time. So if officers aren't, if they're not answering calls and they're not investigating traffic crashes and things of that nature, they've been asked to go out and enforce traffic. So we are trying to get the word out that you can't cut through and you can't speed and you can't drive reckless through the town. You know, we're quickly becoming that town, so the word's starting to get out. And I think it's a good thing. You know, I don't think it's going to be a negative. I think people will know that if you come through Sunnyvale, that you're going to get stopped if you're driving reckless, as opposed to some of the comments that we had heard that, you know, that we're not enforcing it and that we're not out there. We are out there, and we are being seen, and we are enforcing it. That's one of our traffic trailers. This is our speed trailers. That's out on Tripp. You see the red lights. So the red lights are helpful. They're huge. So our initial trailer didn't have the red lights. So when people see the red lights, it's actually triggering. I kind of sat back and watched them for a little while, and it triggers them. So when they see red and blue, they just immediately slow down. That's helping, and it's also picking up, it's measuring the amount of cars that are traveling through there and stuff. The biggest thing that these trailers are doing, it's showing us where the high volumes of traffic are and where we need to concentrate our efforts, as opposed to just going and parking somewhere and hoping that we catch a speeder. So here's some of the traffic flow numbers. You can see that Collins obviously is a busy one, both north. You can see that Rebecca. So understand Rebecca's kind of low, but that's only during certain times. So that's high traffic times. So people going home. So that's not all day long. So during the daytime, Rebecca it's a rural road. Coming home time, when people are cutting through, it's extremely busy. I sat out there the other day, I was pulling data off the trailer, and it was just car after car after car after car. People they get very frustrated because of the traffic. They get very annoyed because they're having to wait, and that's what causes our road rage issues, some of those calls. And it also creates the reckless driving. So.
Go back for a second. I'm intrigued, right? If you look at the average, 3 days, Mitchell, 1,800 cars, right? That's just a neighborhood cut through. That'd be roughly 600 cars a day. If you do the math, right?
Yes.
Rebecca is 6,000 divided by 10, roughly 600. So at least the math-wise, I know it's 3 days, just that 3 day. Seems like the volume of traffic on Mitchell and Rebecca are very similar.
They are. So what we're finding is that these numbers are appearing at the high volume times, so peak times.
Yeah.
So we're finding that some of them are between, like, say, 5 p.m. and 7 p.m.
Yeah.
So, within 3 hours, you're getting, 600-700 cars going down Rebecca.
Yeah.
One way.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of traffic. That's a lot of, and some are speeding.
Yeah.
Average speed, the average speed, it shows the different streets here. Collins, I mean, we're averaging speeds in the mid-40s. Rebecca, it's the upper 40s. So, I mean, they're moving down the road. These are 35-mile-an-hour streets.
This is the average, right?
This is the average. So some are low. Now, we've had some that are a little bit higher.
Average.
Yeah. So we've had some that are a little bit higher. So you'll also see, I don't know if you got that part, but you'll see some 100-mile-an-hours. What that is where there's two cars passing maybe, and it doubles the score. So, but the majority of this is, people are driving fast and high volumes. So, questions on this one? No. Okay. Traffic incidents, so you can see that number up there, that's 700 traffic stops that we're making, and that time was January, February. So we're concentrating our efforts. That doesn't mean that we're neglecting other things. So we are answering calls. We have, our call volume as usual, anything from alarms to domestics to suspicious people. So we're still doing all of that. What the town manager was talking about earlier is, we've got some plans in place, to create some other divisions. You might be a traffic division, that might be able to address some of this. So that frees up our officers to concentrate on their calls and their patrols. And if we had people that are just specific to enforcing traffic. So.
Real quick on this one.
Yes.
So to help people understand how much effort goes into traffic stops, it takes roughly, 10 minutes per traffic stop?
Yes, sir.
So to take 700, right, 10 minutes apiece.
Yes, sir.
That's 7,000 minutes, right? So that's 115 hours spent.
Yes, sir.
Just pulling people over in 1 month.
That's correct. And that's a lot of time that our officers are spending. That's a lot of time that our officers are subjecting themselves to officer safety issues. That's a lot of time that our officers are subjecting ourselves from getting rear-ended from somebody that's not paying attention. But it also shows the community that, we're doing it, and I think we're making an impact. So.
Well, and you think about it, if 115 hours in 1 month, right, that's basically one officer doing nothing but writing tickets 8 hours a day.
Yes, sir.
Nonstop.
And Mayor and Council, if I may interject here too, I mean, the roadway design on some of those roads, I mean, we're talking about 2-lane roads with very little room to move over on a shoulder.
Yes, sir.
And we're talking Tripp, Rebecca, you know, and some other roads. So roadway design does have an impact, obviously, on the situation. You know, we do have on a given shift 4 or 5 officers working a 12-hour shift. And we have 16.7 square miles of territory to cover. We never know where the calls are going to come from. And so if you can imagine that amount of time spent on traffic stops, that means we may have 2 or 3 officers at most to respond to other calls. So hence the need of the previous discussions about maybe adding some staff directly, you know, dedicated to traffic enforcement.
Thank you. Yes, he's 100% right. And that is, it takes away from, because we get those complaints at the PD also. We don't ever see in the neighborhood. Well, the reason you don't see us in the neighborhood is because we're not necessarily doing this, but we're answering other calls. So as the town grows, we have to kind of meet that, and we have to address the issue. So these next slides are just basically, you know, the amount of, you know, so I know it says warning and there's 41%, and we should be zero tolerant in some of these areas. I think our officers feel that sometimes warnings help. So we don't have to issue citations to everybody. But if you issue a citation, or a warning rather, and here within the next week or two, you get stopped again, and it pops up on our computer because we do keep those stats, you'll receive a citation. You've been given your warning. But like the town manager was saying, these roads are very narrow. I mean, that 46 miles an hour was capturing a car that was coming up behind me. So understand that I'm sitting in my Tahoe with the red and blue lights flashing in the back. So they know it's a police car, but yet we're still speeding. So it's these people that are, I think the majority are passing through, and they're frustrated. I get it, because I drive in traffic myself, but they have to slow down. They have to slow down.
Lieutenant, a question for you. On the warnings, how many of those citations have been issued to those that have already received a warning? Do y'all keep that data?
We do. We didn't break that down, but I'm sure that some of them are repeat offenders.
Okay, I'm just
curious. If we were to search, you know, yes, we can search that. So. Yeah, right. So same thing with Collins Road. You know, I was talking to the mayor earlier. You know, we have not only speeders, but you know, on North Collins we have the school buses. So we're trying to address the school bus issue on North Collins and on Beltline. People are ignoring the school buses. So it's an issue that we will continue to address. So, and we just go through these slides, you know, Jobson Road, you know, so it just shows the percentages of what we're doing. So it's, those numbers I suspect will probably change as we start seeing that people aren't paying attention and they're not adhering to the warnings. So we'll probably start seeing that those numbers start to change, where we are issuing more citations than warnings.
We are a friendly town, right?
Yes, yes, and these citations are only being issued, so we're issuing citations elsewhere in town. So these are just in these high impact areas that we're tracking.
If I can make a quick comment, if we're going to go to a zero tolerance policy, let's start on people who ignore school buses.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think they get warnings.
100%.
Yeah.
There's a really fine line between council direction and a police officer's discretion regarding issuing tickets. So I'm certain that none of your comments were intended to give direction to police officers regarding the issuance of citations.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And none taken. So we, as I push this out, you know, our officers have discretion. That's why you see warnings. So our officers always have discretion. We will never ask them to go out and it's just specifically write tickets. And we don't do quotas. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. So the officers do a really, really good job at differentiate between who needs it and who doesn't. So Mitchell, you know, we had people that were stopped on Mitchell that, you know, were Most likely on Mitchell, it's probably the stop sign, where they're ignoring the stop sign. So, and I suspect that some of those people are probably, or the majority of those people are probably people that live in the neighborhoods. I don't know why else you would be on Mitchell, but yeah. So, excuse me, Rebecca Road, it's probably starting to change. You know, it's probably starting to shift more to where we're issuing citations as opposed to the warnings. You know, so it's I can tell you that because of the road and because of its being so narrow and because it's out in a rural area of town, that an accident out there is going to be a pretty hellacious accident. You know, especially if you're traveling at, you know, 40, 50 miles an hour or better. And we've seen people trying to pass others. So, you know, if you do that, you know, you play silly games, you're going to win silly prizes. So we're trying to keep that from happening. Trip Road, same thing. Moving on. So this was an overview of calls for service and traffic. This was during January and February. So of those almost 1,200 calls, or 1,200 calls for service, you know, 1,158, 701 of those were traffic stops. So problem-oriented policing is just a term that we're using to track some of this. It's a problem, and this is what we're doing to police that area. So that's how we track it in the computer. So is that the last one? So is there questions or anything that I need to?
Just really good data. Appreciate you. Really nice breakdown of how things are. Appreciate you, Angie. I'm sure
So a lot
you have
of
something to do with the
Yeah.
charting, but appreciate that. Obviously,
Yeah.
obviously, police officers who it's a risky job, but appreciate what you do. Thank you so
Yes,
much,
sir.
Mr. Allen.
I do have one question. This says January to February, but we didn't put the trailers up. I lost track of time. What, 4 weeks ago? So, I mean, is this a full month's worth of data,
So-
or just 3 weeks, or 16 days?
So we've had one trailer that we've been using for quite a while. Then we
Right.
got the second and third trailer. So a lot of this is from one trailer, and then we added the second and third. So
It's a lot more.
It'd be really interesting to see how
You'll
this data
start
looks.
seeing a lot more data in a month or so, something.
yes,
Right?
so we'll continue to track all this.
Yeah, please do. Mr. Allen, do you have a comment, sir?
No, this is really great. I mean, helps us kind of, you know, we have feelings about what traffic is, we have feelings about what's going on in town, but when you have the data to support it,
Yeah.
it makes you feel more clear on the decisions you make.
And I can't do this without the help of Angie, so a lot of this credit goes to her, so thank you.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you.
Is that you next?
Mayor, yeah, so we do have, Mr. Jenkins is available to discuss any traffic calming measures on any of those particular roads. I do know that he's looked extensively at Rebecca Road, because that is, as Lieutenant just illustrated, obviously, particularly during the PM rush hour, is a pretty high volume and high speed area, maybe more so than some of the others. So we do have a visual aid if if the council is interested in looking at implementing your newly amended traffic calming policy.
Yeah.
It's really at council's discretion.
Yeah, we have the council policy. Staff has to make the recommendation. If this is your recommendation, that's what council has to vote on. If you need a voting. If you don't need it, we don't need it.
Yeah, just a brief overview of this. As others have said tonight, Rebecca Road, of course, because of it being a narrow road with ditches along the side, obviously presents safety difficulties for the officers that are enforcing the traffic law out there. So I have just looked at it to see where might be some good locations where speed humps could be placed. And on the map that you have in front of you, I've identified 3 general locations. Those are not intended to be exact. They can be adjusted slightly in the field, where they're a good distance apart from each other. They're not too close to any existing private driveways. They're not too close to any road intersections, manholes, other features that would influence their location. So the recommendation would be, if this is something that council wishes to do, we could install some temporary rubberized traffic humps that could be ordered and bolted into place on the road surface, with the intent of course, obviously slowing down the speed of traffic using the roadway. As the Highway 80 project moves into the construction phase over the next few years, and then when Highway 80 is eventually completed, our expectation is that traffic will not be using Rebecca Road as much of a cut through at that point. So again, obviously that's something we will look at once that roadway project is completed. But if it's felt at that time that the traffic level has dropped back down to a more appropriate level for the area, those speed humps could always be removed again in the future. And of course, installation of any speed humps, we would include appropriate warning signage for the traffic. The humps would have reflective striping to help them show up easily at night. And as I say, these would be temporary in nature and could possibly be removed in the future if we feel, looking down the road, that it's appropriate at that time. I'd be happy to answer any other questions about that if you have any.
Council, any questions or comments about staff's recommendation?
Well, thank you for this, by the way. You hit the two things I was wondering. You know, the speed bumps have to be reflective because there's no lights in that area. My only concern, and I think we've already kind of discussed this, if you put that first speed hump in there north of, what's that, St. James Park, it might actually force traffic through St. James. That maybe we just kind of leave that one out, and you know, and still get the traffic that's coming through. But I mean, I'd hate to send traffic directly through a neighborhood, or you know, kind of make traffic, you know, flowing that way because of that one. But that's my only thought on that.
Well, certainly, sir, and that's a good point, and it's well taken. We could just put in 2 humps south of St. James and see how that works. And if that does the job and does what we need it to do, then we wouldn't need to install any additional ones.
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll see the police data showing the average speed, because your trailer is over there, right? So you should see that from the average 50 miles to hopefully close to 35 or less average, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Allen?
Lyle, again, this is good stuff. Did we look at, or did the staff look at putting speed bumps on Tripp Road on the other end? I don't recall if that was discussed or not.
On the other end, do you mean further west?
Yeah, west, that end.
We haven't looked at, if you're referring to west of Collins, and no, sir, we haven't looked at that at that time. That's certainly something we can look at. We do have upcoming roadway work scheduled for Tripp Road. That being the case, I wouldn't recommend that at this time for that reason. Once that roadway work is done, that's certainly something we could revisit in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Additional comments on staff's recommendation?
Last thing, we're only talking about the ones on Rebecca Road, not the ones on Tripp, correct?
Yes, sir. Those ones that are shown on Tripp on that exhibit, that was just something I was kind of looking at in additional just in case, but they are by no means required.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Let me open up for public comments. I know this has been a well talked about topic in many faces, so if there's anyone from the members of the audience who would like to come forward and speak to the council, right, number 11, you may do so at this time. Okay, no one is coming forward, so I'm going to close the public comments. Staff, you think you got the direction?
Mayor, I think I guess if you want to call it a staff recommendation, to install the 2 temporary road humps south of St. James on Rebecca, with additional signage and with markings that clearly indicate there's a road hump there, because of the comments made about the lighting issue. I guess that would be the staff recommendation, but a temporary one at that, and revisit in the future and whether those need to stay. We do know that, and I don't think this was covered yet in open session, that Rebecca Road will likely be on a DMAIC phase, probably a phase 3, meaning not this year but next year. And so certainly, and then also we know that with the Highway 80 widening, there will be a bridge at East Fork Road, and so we know that the traffic patterns are going to change in the very near future because of some of these other road projects and construction projects. So, which is why we would recommend, if council chooses to do anything, it would be temporary in nature, and we would measure the impact that it has.
Yeah. Sounds like council is supportive of the staff's recommendation. And Jeff, I'm assuming that this is within your approval, budget approval limit, so you don't need council approval.
Yeah,
for
cost-wise, I think this is really, if council recommends moving forward with the installation of the proposed locations of those two particular speed humps, then we will proceed with acquiring and installation and brief the council once we get those installed.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, I would like for this to be a council vote.
Okay.
So that you all have and the town has your legislative immunity.
Okay.
In the event of any accidents.
Okay.
If the staff did it, it would be qualified immunity,
Okay.
which is a lower level.
Okay.
So to the extent that you all are in agreement with the staff recommendation as stated by the town manager, I would like a motion and a vote.
Yes, ma'am. So I think you heard the attorney's recommendation. So I think what I heard the council saying, start with the two shown in the exhibit. If that's your desire, council can have a motion with respect to staff's recommendation on adding those two speed cushions on Rebecca Road.
Motion to approve two, call them speed bumps? Two speed bumps on Rebecca Road.
Yeah,
on
or
the-
staff's recommendation, right?
Based
Yeah.
on staff's recommendation, yeah.
Motion made by Mr. Elder. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Freeman. Everyone heard the motion? Are there additional discussions? All in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 5-0. Mr. Finch and Mr. Clark are absent.
Mayor, I have a question
Yes,
for our
sir.
town attorney.
Yes, sir.
Since we just voted on that specifically with two south of St. James, if the town manager wanted to add a third one anywhere, would we come back to re-vote that again?
Yes.
Okay.
That answer your question? Okay. Okay, moving on to item number 12. Discuss, consider, and act upon resolution 2023-06, a resolution establishing an economic development advisory committee, providing for its purpose, membership, terms and duties, and providing for related matters. That be Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, if you recall, at a previous work session, staff had presented creation of a new board and commission called the Economic Development Advisory Committee, which was really, the purpose of which is to help engage our business community with the town. There are really three facets to economic development. There's business attraction, which is bringing new businesses to your community. And then there's business retention, keeping those businesses you have in your community here, and business expansion, which is helping those who are here to not just stay here, but also to expand. So we call that the BRE, business retention and expansion, as an important part, and actually probably more work and more results come from those activities than business attraction. So this is just giving us another tool in our toolbox, if you will, for the town to not only engage our local business community through this particular board and commission, but also to enhance our efforts and our business retention and expansion efforts. We simply have one staff member involved in economic development, and I think what a better way to enhance our ability to keep a growing and a strong tax base to help fund a lot of these town services, but through a committee such as this. The proposed committee would be advisory in nature, with quarterly luncheon meetings is what we're projecting. There are specific industry slots, so a 21-member committee. Industries represented from a wide array, including real estate, technology. We have one at-large position, I think you see in the staff report, but there's a wide variety of either 1 to 3 different positions depending upon the industry type. So BRE committees or economic development advisory committees are fairly common in most communities, and staff is recommending that we add that to our toolbox this spring, and then we would certainly consider advertising for those openings, and staff would bring back some recommended appointments later this spring. Be
So
happy to
this is
answer any
again
questions.
something which citizens can apply, right? And and be
Absolutely, and I think the way that we've drafted the resolution and sort of, not really the bylaws, but the composition of the committee is, you don't have to be a Sunnyvale resident. Certainly that would be a plus, but you have to be represented by a business that's in our community and be representative of those specific sectors that we've outlined in the staff report.
Council, do you have any comments or questions for Jeff on this topic? Okay, let me open up for public comments. If there's anyone from the members of the audience who would like to come forward and speak to council on item number 12, you may do so at this time. Now it is coming forward, so I'm going to close the public comments. Council, additional discussions? If not, I call for a motion.
Motion to approve item 12.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Eldred, second by Mr. Allen to approve. Item number 12 was presented. Everyone heard the motion for the additional discussions. All in favor signify. All opposed. Motion passed 5-0. Mr. Clark and Mr. Finch are absent. So, Jeff, this is a resolution that means this is in effect, right? There's no second reading. It's just a resolution, right? Okay. So now the staff can move on and start implementing this decision, correct?
Yes, sir. We will start advertising for an additional board and commission vacancies this week.
Okay.
And with the goal of filling them sometime in May at the latest.
Yes, sir. Item number 13, Mayor and Council requests for future staff updates and agenda items. Jeff, I have one item. We talked about if you could, or somebody can reach out to the maybe Doug Williams, figure out a list of the our different competition. Like we know the basketball, Lady Raiders go to the state level. I heard the tennis team got there, powerlifting got there. I also know the Business Professionals of America, they are going to the national. Maybe kind of wait for that one to see how that national turn out, right? So the hope is that maybe next time or maybe week after we can have those group here on the chamber for recognition.
Yeah, we will reach out to the school district and coordinate those.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Council additional, yes, Mr. Egan.
Mayor, if I could make a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
With regard to, because I think the students do need to be recognized, but we're going into the end of the school year, or a lot of the seniors are going to have a lot of activities going on. I think it would be better if we would pick a target date toward the end of May and invite all those different students to come in on one night, because as they get toward the end of that last week, I think, and we can check with Mr. Williams to make sure of this, but I would think that the activity level would be such that more of them would have a chance to be involved.
Yeah, I'm good with the suggestion. Mr. Williams had decide what's the best. I'm good with that. Good thought, Mr. Egan.
Yes, sir. Mayor and Council, we can do that. We do have tentatively a confirmation that the girls basketball team could be here at the next council meeting. If you'd like us to continue with that direction, we've got commitment, I believe. If you want to change that and move it to a different date, that's council's. It's up to the council.
I think if you've already got the commitment, then you go for it. But for this year and subsequent teams and maybe into the future when it does have that opportunity, I think it's just a way to think about it.
Good idea. Okay, thank you.
Okay, there are no other council items for future staff updates, agenda items. Can I have item number 14? Can I have a motion to adjourn into executive session section pursuant to section 551.072, deliberations about real property. The two items, 371 Long Creek Road, Sunnyvale, Texas 75182, and property located at or about the 200 block of East Strip Road.
I'm not going to make a motion to go to executive session pursuant to section 551.072.
Motion made by Mr. Freeman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Eldridge to adjourn into executive session pursuant to chapter section 551.072. Yes, thank you, ma'am. All in favor signify. All opposed. Motion passed 5-0. Time is 8:04. We are in executive session. Proceed what?
Always making jokes.
I think if we put more chairs out there, maybe more people would show up.
You ready? Okay, now time is 8:40. We are back in open session. I can confirm that as a result of the executive session, no action is to be taken. So with that, council, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Freeman to adjourn. All in favor signify. All opposed, motion passed 5-0. Time is 8:40. Tonight's meeting is adjourned. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff, for all your support. Appreciate you. Good meeting. Good meeting.